My name is Rob Hill. I'm a partner with a firm called Global Golf Advisors, or GGA. I'm responsible for the Europe, Middle East, Asia and Africa region, so I cover everything from Scandinavia across the Middle East down to Cape Town and back to the west of Ireland. Previously, I worked with Whitbread PLC and the Marriott Group amongst other firms. Who are Global Golf Advisors? Well, it was originally established in 1992 as a specialist practice at KPMG in Toronto. We conduct strategic planning, long-term capital planning, operational and market analysis for private clubs and for commercial clubs all around the world. We've served almost 3,000 clients now globally, and we do that from 4 global offices. Here in Dublin, in Harcourt Street. Also Toronto, our original office is still there. We also have an office in Phoenix in Arizona and an office in Sydney, which covers Asia Pacific. So our approach to strategic planning is evidence driven. We place great importance on the process of gathering intelligence to thoroughly understand the current circumstances facing a club. This understanding is then validated and measured through a member survey, and the results of which inform a final set of recommendations and the development of a strategic plan. So you'll see here I've outlined the 6 steps in our approach to strategic planning. Our experience tells us that a strategic plan is the most important document that a successful private members club can have. Research tells us that almost 8 out of every 10 of the world's top performing clubs are currently working to a strategic plan. So what is a strategic plan? It's a plan that sets the long-term destination for a club, clarity of a vision where the club aims to be in 5 to 10 years' time. It describes how the club is going to reach that destination, and it describes the resources that are required in order to get there. Why does it contribute to success? Well, a thorough plan provides a deep understanding of the factors that influence a club's understanding of itself, the influences within the club and those influences outside the walls that it needs to be aware of in order to build an effective, successful plan. A strategic plan provides a true north for those leaders at a club to test all of their decision making. So anything that's made at council level, at committee level, amongst the management team, all of those decisions are made in reference to where the club aims to be and its long-term goals, to ensure that each decision is supporting each other decision. And then also importantly, in a private members club such as the Island, it supports consistency of tenure. It allows over the long term for a club to advance in one direction, and it limits the potential for a club to move from side to side. In other words, it gets you to success a great deal faster. So what process did we follow at the Island? Well, we followed a process that is best practice for strategic planning globally. We started with a strategic retreat with the council. They gave up a day at a weekend to explore and discuss what are the issues, what are the challenges facing the club today, what they believe to be the likely issues and challenges facing the club in the future. And that gave us a very good understanding of where the club was and some sense of where they thought the potential was for the club to go in the future. We then completed a market study which looked at how competitive the Island was, who its competitors were, not just in terms of pricing, but in terms of facility offering, in terms of standards, in terms of packages or categories of membership, if you like, privileges and benefits of membership. We also looked at where Island members came from, where they're likely to come from in the future. We completed an operations analysis, so we benchmarked the performance of the island against a local competitive set and also a much wider set in order to identify perhaps areas where the club could improve its performance and where there were any red flags that needed particular attention. The next stage in the analysis was a governance review. Once we had those first 4 stages equipped or completed, we were equipped to carry out some focus groups. We did that with, I think over, correct me if I'm wrong, John, about 8 to 10 focus groups with members, different age groups. We also did some speciality groups like those who joined the club in the last 3 years to get their sense of their experience of having joined the club, but also what influenced them to join the club. We also carried out some interviews and a focus group with members of staff at the club as well. So with all of that information, all that intelligence gathered, we designed a very comprehensive member survey, comprehensive, very in-depth, extraordinarily long, I think, was some of the feedback we had. We encourage clubs to carry out member surveys on an annual basis. The first survey is the critical one because it's strategic in nature. We'll encourage the club to complete a satisfaction survey next year, which many clubs will do, a lot lighter, focused on how members are feeling about service, about access, what's good, what's bad. In this instance, we covered a great deal more than that, particularly issues relating to the club's future direction. So once we had the results of the member survey, we drafted a strategic plan, some core recommendations, which we presented to the council for their feedback and input. And we have just recently completed a business plan. The strategic plan is finished, the business plan to support it, and an action plan, which is particularly focusing on the next 12 to 18 months. So that was the process that was followed. I thought what I might do is just touch on one of the outcomes or the findings from one of these stages in the process, member survey, which I know the council has released copies of all of the reports, and I'm sure many of you have scanned. Some of you will have read them in depth, so I'm hoping I'm not throwing up any information that isn't terribly irrelevant or that you've already gone over yourselves, but I think none the worth it's worth touching on some of these. First of all, in terms of the participant profile, we had an excellent response rate. To the electronic survey, we had 67% response rate. I've just put in there for your reference. We carry out hundreds of these surveys at member clubs all around the world. The benchmark norm for completion is between 45 and 55%. So there was a great deal of engagement from Island members on completion of the survey. 450 members in total contributed. 79% of those who completed the survey were male, 21% female. In terms of age profile, 20% of those who completed it were aged between 67 and 74. And in terms of the tenure of membership, how long members have been members at the club, see the average tenure of members who completed the survey was almost 24 years. One of the great values in running focus groups is to ask members directly where they see the future of the club, whether it should be ambitious, and if it should be ambitious, in what way. So a strategic plan is hinged around this concept of a destination, of a future, of a mission or of a vision for the club, because that sets the objective, that sets the target, and the whole plan is designed to help the club achieve that destination, that key goal. And so the focus groups helped identify a number of key themes, and so in the survey we set about trying to measure this level of support, the degree of member sentiment for these. And you'll see there, in the first bar, the mission statement being the golf course is our primary asset and is to be maintained and improved to standard consistent with the world's best links. 76% of the participants supported that as a core mission, a core value of the club. And you'll see this point system that runs with a score from 0 to 10. So not only did we ask you to tell us which of these you supported, but we also asked you to identify how important were they to you. So the lower that point score, the more important. The closer to 0, the more important. So not only was that first focus on the golf course and its importance and the ambition for it to be consistent with one of the world's best links, not only did it gather the most support at 76%, but it was also by far and away the most important at 1.76. You'll also see 4 others there that gained or secured majority support. The second one being a club dedicated to providing a welcoming golf experience to all its members and all its visitors. 73%, nearly as strong, not quite as important, but almost just as much support or degree of support in terms of a percentage. And then 3 was managing the club's affairs according to prudent financial operating standards and so on. You'd see down at the bottom, still with 20% support, demonstrated capability and interest in hosting an Irish Open Championship. This is a good example of where the focus groups, this was a topic that came up across 3 focus groups. So in testing it, we see it may not have unanimous support of membership quite yet, and it may not even be all that important to those who do recognize it. So it's a good example of where it's important to test these sentiments and put a measurement on them. Overall member satisfaction came in as 8 out of 10. Again, to put that in some context for you, the benchmark range is 7.8 to 8.6. So overall satisfaction amongst the membership with their membership and the club is strong. I thought I'd just give you a little bit of breakdown as to what sits behind it. In terms of the percentage of members in these categories that scored either 8 or higher, in other words, if we look on the left-hand side, age grouping, those aged 67 or over, 55% in that age category scored their overall satisfaction as higher than average, higher than 8. So if you're age 67 plus, you're in the very happy group. If you're aged between 35 to 42, only 13% of that age group indicated their overall satisfaction was 8 or higher. So you can start to see a little bit of a discrepancy with regards to, even on an age basis, how the club is meeting their needs or how satisfied membership are with the club and its delivery. And then on the right, the ladies are a great deal more happy than the men.
Where's 43 to 50?
Good question. I don't have an answer. Some other simple sample insights. In terms of the preferred membership size, this was a common theme in the focus groups, where I was asked consistently, what's the right number of members we should have? So when we asked you, almost 7 out of 10 supported the status quo. They were happy with current membership numbers at the club. 24% had a preference for increasing the number of members if it meant lowering the annual dues. And just 8% were eager to see the number of members of the club reduced. And then the other common strong theme was the question about the level of non-member play, visitor play. Again, over 7 out of 10 supporting maintaining the current level of visitor play. And then a reasonably even split between those who wanted more play or those felt they would like the club to reduce the number of non-member rounds. In terms of capital projects, again, a lot of this driven by what came from the focus groups. The great value in the survey is putting a measurement on that sentiment. And you'd see number 1 and number 2 both reflecting majority. Number 1, obviously a great deal stronger, almost 7 out of 10 would like to see the club invest capital funds in the renovation to the dining and bar areas at the club. And 51% eager to see a reconfiguration of the clubhouse. Third was the implementation of the current Mackenzie Ebert Golf Course Master Plan, with 41% wishing to see that capital project pursued. And that was pretty much a similar number that supported the purchase of a freehold title of lands from Fingal County Council, refurbishment of locker rooms and facilities, and the introduction of a short course and/or a putting course, an additional golfing amenity. All of those receiving pretty much the same percentage support, but you'll see those who indicated support for the Golf Course Master Plan were a great deal more passionate about it than those who supported those other 3 items I just mentioned. So, I'm sorry, I threw up number 1. I shouldn't have just jumped ahead. What I wanted to do was focus on, primarily based on the focus groups and the survey feedback. We have recommended that the club adopt a vision statement which says the Island Golf Club will be a thriving club, home to a world-class links and an unrivaled welcome. There are, in support of that, there's a mission statement description and also a number of core values, again identified through member input. In support, in order to achieve this destination, which is being set for 2025, this vision statement describes where the club wishes to be in 2025. And so in order to support that, we've recommended 6 core strategic pillars. Number 1, as you'll see, is prudent financial and asset management. Second pillar is improving facilities. The third is golfing, hospitality, and operational excellence. The fourth is to bolster membership. The fifth is to strengthen governance. And the sixth is to communicate effectively. So I thought what I'd do is just to, as we move towards a wrap up, is give you a little bit of detail behind these pillars. So pillar 1, appropriately capitalize the club, protect the club's financial security, manage risk of high reliance on green fee revenue, and protect the condition and standard of the club's assets. I'm afraid that writing might be a bit small, so I'll pull out a few of these. These are some of the recommendations in support of that key goal, some of the actions that we're encouraging the club and council to oversee over the next 6 years. So one is to continue to plan for and fund capital maintenance and to develop a capital reserve study. A capital reserve study is clarity on the future capital maintenance needs of the club. So we look at, it's not us, it's an engineer or an architect, we'll work through all the assets that the club is responsible for. It will detail the cost of replacing that element, the predicted lifespan, how much more the club can expect to get out of that, in order to understand when it will need to be replaced, how much it will cost to replace it, and that will help significantly with council and the club as a whole planning for its capital maintenance needs in the years ahead. We recommend that the club budget 7 to 9% of gross revenues annually on capital maintenance. Maintain a capital reserve balance of 2 times the annual capital maintenance requirement. Maintain a development levy as a tool for funding capital. Maintain joining fees to reduce debt and to fund capital expenditure. And maintain non-member rounds to subsidise subscription rates and contribute to funding capital through net operating income. We only have 6. Number 2, improving facilities. So the key goal is to maintain and consistently improve the club's capital assets in order to maintain and enhance the club's good reputation, its competitive market position, as well as member satisfaction, retention, and rejuvenation. So what do we mean by that? First of all, we recommend the development of a facility master plan. I know there's a golf course master plan which has remained controversial and unmandated. We're encouraging that a master plan be developed for the entire facility of the club. That's clubhouse, its practice, its maintenance facilities, as well as golf course. Under that heading, we're encouraging that there be a tender for a new golf course plan with extensive member consultation. Tender for clubhouse renovation and extensive, again with extensive member consultation, particularly to focus on dining and bar, clubhouse reconfiguration to improve member and visitor journey, and improvements to the locker and shower facilities. And then also a plan to incorporate an improvement to the current maintenance facility, in particular to improve staff conditions. And the last element there is to evaluate the potential to acquire adjacent lands with a view to securing the club's assets and adding potential new revenues or amenities such as a short course. Number 3, golfing hospitality and operational excellence. Optimize the operating profile of the club with an emphasis on the club's world-class golf course, excellent member and visitor experience, prudent budgeting, utilization monitoring, and improved staff culture. So some of the recommendations I pulled out, this is not all of them clearly, I'm just picking out some headlines. First of all is the development of policy documents for the golf course, for the member experience, and for the visitor experience, all of which need to have measurement tools in place so the club can understand how far away it is from achieving its goals, how it's performing in each of these areas. The great value in that, obviously, is it allows council to take action, it allows them to focus on the areas that need focus, and it allows them to report back to you, the membership, on the impact. Focus on a positive work culture, supported by staff policy, education, and recognition. One of the striking things for me in our interviews, particularly in my staff focus group, was just how unmotivated and how difficult staff at the club found the island as a place to work. And that may be surprising to many of you, particularly when in the focus groups and in the survey, you identified your support and you recognized the importance of your staff at the club. And so one of the core focuses in this third strategic goal is to ensure that what's taking place on the ground reflects your sentiment or your desires, to ensure that you look after the staff of the club and you're better equipped to recruit and retain the very best talent available. Third point there, consistently and accurately record golf course utilization. Improvements to the operating model. Another striking thing for us in the analysis was when the operation was benchmarked against competitor clubs and indeed against best practice, it was a very low labour headcount. So you were delivering services with far fewer staff than your competitive set or than we would identify as best practice. And for me, that was a flag. For me, that said that if the club has ambitions to do more, to improve in any area, it was quite likely that the team that are currently in place are stretched and are doing their utmost. And so any improvements were going to require extra headcount. Focus on nurturing tour operator relationships, environmental stewardship, again, something identified as important through the member survey, and care and development of a caddy program, which was clear through our research as well, is very important to those tour operators who are regular users of the club. Number 4 then, bolster the membership plan in order to protect the existing financial strength of the club, maintain its competitive position, provide opportunity for new entrants with attention to women, families and young members, and facilitate the transition of intermediates to full category. So 6 of the recommendations here. We encourage that subscription rates should increase with inflation. We encourage the introduction of a legacy program. Some adjustments and tweaks to the intermediate category, both to extend the age profile and make some adjustments to the payment structure. When the club is ready, introduce a family category and incentivize female membership. Adjust the cap subscription discount structures, adjust and cap, and adjustments to competitions to add 9-hole and open options. I think overall, just on the competitions front, membership were extremely happy with the competitions offering. These were 2 areas in terms of more 9-hole and more open options that kicked out of the member survey. Number 5, pursue excellence in club governance and reporting to considerably improve transparency and trust in the council, and establish business-like systems, processes, and council collaboration. So 6 bullet points here. Prepare and execute a plan for the amalgamation of the men's and ladies' clubs. One highly supported by the membership. 2, reduce the size of council, develop a skills matrix, and an induction process for those who join. Number 3 is set up a club governance document repository. 4, develop and adopt a council policy document. 5, consistently evaluate council performance and report progress to the membership. And finally, introduce and utilize electronic notice of meetings and voting. Final pillar, extend the brand reach of the island through consistent and continuous communication of key attributes to effectively reach target markets. I won't go through all of these, but in effect, the club has done a magnificent job up to this point on communicating its values and its offerings particularly to tour operators, the results of which the club has seen over the last 2.5 to 3 years. Our encouragement is that that should continue. However, the club should also focus its efforts on connecting with passionate golfers all around the world to do a better job in pushing demand to the tour operators, who signal at the moment that largely it's the tour operators who put the island to their clients rather than the client demanding that the island be encouraged or be included in their itinerary. All of the tour operators were extraordinarily positive about the club, and we believe that it merits communicating, not both with them, but individual golfers as well, and that greater efforts, you'll see, implement a marketing plan to connect consistently and relevantly with tour operators, visitors, and also media influencers. I think one of the things we're seeing is a greater, whether you agree with it or not, a greater importance placed on rankings, of which there are many these days, both online, offline publications. So there's another area for the club to place focus on. The next steps here are, once the new council is in place and adopt the action plan, and start to proceed with its implementation is that there will be an ongoing monitoring of the process and an impact of the implementation of these components. Any elements that require member approval, clearly they'll come back for that. The intelligence that has informed this plan will be refreshed on an annual basis to ensure that council and committee members and the leadership of the club have up-to-date relevant information to hand to make sure that they can make informed, fact-based decisions. The council will also have access to all that information and all of those reports through an online portal to make sure that they're all focused on strategy, but they have access to all the information they need to make the decisions that will impact the club. And so I'm not sure if I did that in 30 or 35 minutes, as quick as I could. My email address is there if anyone would like to contact me on anything specific.